No worries. All right. So, hi, everyone, and welcome to How to Create a Successful Alumni Relations Law Firm Program. I'm Stefanie Marrone, and I'm joined today by Fritsch from Clients First Consulting. We're so glad you could be here. We did this webinar, a version of this webinar in person at the Legal Marketing Association's Mid-Atlantic Conference a few weeks ago, and we know there were a lot of people who weren't able to go to the conference, so we wanted to bring the program to all of you at home. So thank you for joining. Let us know in the chat from where you're joining. Please do connect with Chris and I on LinkedIn. We're pretty much on every social channel. Clients First has an awesome blog, and you should follow it. We'll put a link to our blogs. You can follow me and subscribe to my email list as well. So this is a list of the things we're going to be covering today. Why alumni networks are important for law firms, what I call the 5 R's of alumni relations, some of the components of a successful alumni program, how alumni can help your firm, which is essentially the first bullet, but we'll pretend that it's different. Okay, obstacles to creating and maintaining a law firm alumni program, which is going to flow into the next one that Chris is going to delve into, all about the importance of strong data, and then what I've seen from managing a number of alumni programs in terms of how firms get in their own way. Okay, so Chris, could you introduce yourself to those who don't know you?
Absolutely, sure. I'm Chris Fritsch. I'm the president and founder of Clients First Consulting. I'm actually a CRM success consultant, and no, that is not an oxymoron. Over the past 15 years, our team has helped close to 200 top firms successfully select and implement CRM systems and related and integrated technology. And then we have a whole team that does automated and manual data stewarding for firms. We've got almost 75 people that do that, that outsource that process, so firms don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, I would love to know how many of you are outsourcing things. So if you could put that in the chat, and I'm seeing we've got folks from all over the US and beyond: Toronto, Austin, Houston, Detroit, Sacramento, Michigan, Cleveland, LA, Savannah, New York.
So I can't wait to see. I'm going to be in Toronto on Monday for the LMA conference. I can't wait to see all my Canadian friends. So if you haven't signed up for the conference, do attend. Or I'm actually going out in Toronto for drinks on Friday night if you'd like to join me.
Okay, we'll definitely put that. We'll put that up on. We'll definitely send an email about that. And it looks like Anne-Marie Farrow is working with Chris right now. So thank you for joining. That's awesome. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I am an outsourced chief marketing officer and also social media consultant for law firms and legal service providers. I've worked in and at law firms for more than 20 years. And I ran the alumni relations program at Paul Weiss and Sullivan and Cromwell, Proskauer, Morrison and Forrester, and Mayer Brown. And also a few mid-sized firms. I'm working with a number of clients now that are small and mid-sized because everybody needs an alumni program, in my opinion. So enough about us. Let's talk about you guys. So Chris and I both took Latin. Chris took Latin for, Chris, how many years? I think you said
10.
Was like 10? Okay,
10. I
took Latin for a year. So Chris's Latin is much better than mine. But we wanted to just give you a little primer of some of the terms that are most often used with regard to alumni relations. So a catch-all word for alumni is just alumni. That can mean plural male and plural female and male. So it's the plural version. Alumnus is a male singular. Alumna is a female singular. And then alumnae is your female plural. Chris, did I get this right today?
Yeah, pretty close. It's actually, yeah, for English, that's correct. Alumnae is actually pronounced alumni, and alumni is actually pronounced alumni. But other than that, wow, I am
all right. Well,
nerd.
Let's just go with the American version of this. Has anyone besides Chris and I taken Latin in school? I never thought it would come in handy, and here I am 20-something years later working in legal marketing, and there you go. So you learned it here first. So I firmly believe that even if you have one alumnus or alumni, if you have an alum, You can also
Let's
say
use alum.
alum.
Can we use
Yeah.
alum?
So alum is like more of the casual term for this. Look, okay, Kelly Schrupp, you took Latin at Chris Carty, 2 years of Latin. That I am so glad to hear that we're not alone. So, okay. So if you have even one alum, you need an alumni relations program, because alumni, as we'll talk about, are very important sources of a lot of different things and can really help with recruiting and marketing and mend hurt feelings and all that sort of stuff. So just because you're a firm of 30 people doesn't mean that you don't need an alumni program. Yes, you do. It'll be so much easier for you to create one versus if you work at a DLA Piper, which has, I don't know, thousands and thousands of alums. Okay. And so every one of you has alumni. It's somebody who's worked at your firm who's left. And by the way, don't just think of alumni relations as simply just lawyers who've worked at your firm. I think it's so short-sighted. There are plenty of people, like somebody like me, for example, who worked at six law firms or so. I feel like I should be part of someone's alumni relations program, and many of you on this call should as well. And then we would be able to really help that firm. And it's short-sighted because they still don't necessarily consider people who haven't been lawyers as part of their alumni program, which I think, like I said, is a huge mistake. Also, former summer associates can be part of your alumni program as well. It takes a little more time and effort to get to know where they are, which is why you can outsource that. But think about that for a minute. You may have a lot of summers or a few who did awesome things and gone on to become judges or GCs of companies, but they're not technically an alum because they didn't actually go to your firm right after graduation. Don't limit yourself, okay? And yes, this takes time to find these people. I used to have these old books in my office. They were like Facebooks, like not Facebook, but like printed directories of people from like the 80s, and I had to go find where they were. Guess what? It's a lot easier than when I did this in 2002 when I first started doing this. Chris, can you believe that I was doing that back in the day? So long time.
I totally can. Yep.
So alumni relations helps law firms and professional service firms and basically any company with recruiting, business development, and general positive branding. Okay. The other thing is that alumni could come back to your firm. They can refer you business. That's where business development comes into it. But a boomerang employee is a lot easier to onboard than someone from scratch. So all of these reasons. But if you look at the very bottom, Chris, without good data about these people, it doesn't really matter. You can do all the things, but it's not going to reach all the people. So staying in touch with alumni and having their updated info is so important.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot more firms now focusing on alumni, having positions dedicated to alumni because they understand that and they get it.
Yeah. And the other thing is that you may know where somebody leaves, where they go when they left your firm, but that doesn't mean that they stayed there, especially with the Great Resignation over the last few years. People have moved. And unless you're in direct contact with them, the information in your CRM is probably outdated. I'd love to ask a question for the attendees. How many of you have a separate alumni database versus your CRM? And how many of you have your alumni information already integrated into CRM? Because we will give you tips for both of these. I can tell you when I was working at some of the firms, alumni data was kept separately because it was put into the alumni database and there was no bridge, between the two. So we had to keep the information separately, which made my life a living nightmare. So the person could be in interaction, but then they would also have to be manually entered into the alumni database so they could feed to the directory. So it was a lot. So, okay, this is good. This is good to hear. So you have an alumni folder and you have summer also has a summer associate folder. That's great. Okay. And a lot of you have it integrated into CRM. If you have any specific challenges with alumni, put them in the chat too, because we will get to that. So one of the things that I think is really important to note is that alumni relations is a two-way street. Some law firms fail at alumni relations because they make it all about the firm, sending a newsletter to talk about themselves. Oh, the victory they had. Oh, even worse, how humbled and honored they were to have 98 super lawyers. Your alumni they really don't care about that. You know what they do care about? If you provide them a forum, like a newsletter, to talk about when they became a super lawyer. They want to be able, that's why I think class notes, Chris, is so important for alumni relations, content that is centered around your alums and not the firm, yes, you can talk about the things that your firm are doing. And yes, it's important to do that, but that's not the purpose of the alumni program. There needs to be a reason why they still engage with you, and you need to provide them value.
Indeed.
And an engaged and thriving alumni ecosystem generates value. So the ecosystem to me is, somebody accepts an offer or is a summer, they go to your firm. By the way, you should make sure that your lawyers have access to the alumni relations program and the alumni directory, because they may want to get in touch with someone who works at another organization. Have your alums come back and talk to your associates and talk and be part of marketing initiatives. The best thing you can do is like offer an alum an incentive like that, and especially a strategic alum, which would be somebody in a decision-making position. And so the ecosystem is before they join, when they're at your firm, and then realizing that the life cycle of a lawyer at your firm is likely not to be any more 30 years. They're not necessarily going to move up the ranks and become partner, nor do they want to. So you need to make sure that even if somebody touched your firm and stayed at your firm for 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, that you're still in touch with them. Because again, referrals, word of mouth about recruiting and working at that firm. They look you up on LinkedIn. They see that you worked at Paul Weiss, and then they want to know what your experience was like. That's a lot more profound than if I went and looked on your website, which is going to tell me only what you want me to know about you. And then in terms of just realizing that your lawyers are probably going to leave, so you want to maintain touch points with them, and you do that through an alumni program. So these are all of the things that an alumni relations program should have, in my opinion. It should be unique. It should be exclusive. It should be collective. So bringing you together in a network or community, make alumni feel valued, and then visionary, contributing to achieving institutional goals. So a lot of alums want to give back. A lot of alums go in-house and they don't have access to pro bono or CSR, community service, ESG. You could really help your alumni by offering them access to those things and partner with you. Well, another really great thing to do is to give them access to your CLE programs. A lot of alumni can't get CLE anymore. They don't have access to it like they did at a big firm. So if you have PLI or another organization does your programming for CLE, give them access to it. And providing exclusive benefits. So you may have perks, travel perks, tickets, whatever it is, and just a way to be in touch with each other. That's where that directory comes into play. Some alumni networks like to do job postings for their alums, and I think that's also really helpful. I don't think you need to build out a completely separate website. You can incorporate this in different ways, and you can also use LinkedIn groups now as a quick and dirty way to build an alumni community, because groups now are all closed essentially. Especially you can make an alumni group closed.
Yeah, and a lot of firms are doing this. If you're a smaller firm and you don't have the ability to buy an alumni database, or you don't have a big, CRM system, LinkedIn is a great way to at least get started.
Absolutely. So Chris, data keeps degrading, especially now. So what do you have to say about that with regard to alumni?
Yeah, it's been one of the biggest things clients have come to us with in the last few years is, we're finally focusing on alumni. And, we found out our lists are terrible. We haven't updated them in 5 years. We think all the data is bad. And like you said, with the great resignation and people changing jobs and working from home, we don't know where people are anymore. And so that's one of the big things we're doing, is trying to help people find their alumni and keep up with them.
Okay.
But once you invest in this, it's really important to keep that investment up and to keep track of them.
Yeah, and that is the most important thing. Like, people don't tell you when they move jobs for the most part. It's up to you to do the due diligence. And so if you're not tracking your alums, you're going to be at a disadvantage there. So a very long time ago, I worked at a law firm and we had a printed alumni directory. That's what we did. It was outdated, Chris, the second that we published it. And I still have a few of these. I did a printed alumni newsletter. We sent printed invitations that were beautiful to invite someone to our alumni gala once a year. It was really hard. We didn't have LinkedIn 20 years ago. I was researching people even sending postcards to their house, Chris. Can you believe that? But now we don't have to do it like that. And so the world has become a lot easier. If you don't have a steward who can help you do this, outsourcing is probably going to be your friend and your best bet, because data, like Chris said, degrades. So another thing I see, like I said before, is alumni programs that are all about the firm. And that was how firms were doing alumni programs before. All about themselves, sending alumni press releases, all about how great the firm is. Okay, this is a mistake on so many levels, because it needs to be about your alumni. You can still publicize the things you're doing, but the entire gist of it needs to be about the alum. So profiles of your alumni, programs for your alumni, celebrating their news and successes. That's why I love the idea of the class notes section. So how many of you like submit news for your own alma mater's publications? I went to NYU and Columbia, and I get their newsletters, and I love seeing where my colleagues are. Pictures of people. Even if they want to talk about an award they won, or they had a child, they got married, this is what binds you to the community. You can even do alumni spotlights on your social media channels. In fact, I think you should. I was doing those for many years before a lot of firms were doing them, and also making part of your public website be dedicated to alumni to showcase the great places where your alumni have gone. So a Q&A with a GC, with a judge, that will immensely help you with recruiting and lateral recruiting and law school recruiting. And even in general, when the media goes to your website to find out more about you, you're establishing your credibility. Okay, but an alumni relations program is so much more than events. I feel like a lot of firms just do like an event once a year, which changed to online stuff during the pandemic, and then having an alumni database and a website. And then it's really about creating this long-term supportive community throughout an alumni's career. So I've seen some law firms offer even career coaching to their alumni, which I think is so smart and is another value add. If you have a coach on site, make them available to your alums. And then it's creating opportunities, like I said, with each other, and then promoting alumni and their successes should be at the heart of your program. And my dog just barked because she agrees. Let's talk about the 5 R's of alumni relations. So relationships, it's creating lifelong relationships that are mutually beneficial. Reputation, trust and reputation, so that, you know, people can go on Glassdoor and write negative things about your firm. And this helps to sort of neutralize that, to have good feelings. Even if somebody left on really bad terms, by the way, you can fix things with alumni relations. Revenue, so obviously alumni couldn't, if they go in-house, you want them to still be a client, they become seconded and then they stay, or they are at a bigger firm and you're at a small firm and they recommend your firm for work that doesn't pertain to them, or they're conflicted out. Having close relationships with your alumni is so important for business development. That's why we do this at the end of the day. It's not about the rah stuff. At the end of the day, it's really about business development, but we also care about what they think of us because it helps our reputation. Recruiting. So alumni can be boomerangs, referrals. Like I said, you can support your clients' recruitment needs. And then with this idea of responsibility, so strengthening your corporate social responsibility by engaging your alumni into that, is a win-win for both. So building relationships with your alumni. Okay, your business relationships are essentially what keeps your business alive. So your alumni know your business best. So why wouldn't you want to maintain relationships with them? Your reputation. So your reputation as a firm is paramount to your success. Guess what? Glassdoor reviews actually do matter to people when they're thinking about working at your firm. And people only leave reviews when they're really pissed off or really happy with you. So you want them to either not leave a review at all or feel like it's a good thing, right? And so somebody left your firm, even if they were escorted out the door. I mean, I would tell you, how many of you have a naughty alumni list? I have them at every firm. They're on the do not mail list, okay? But some law firms are so short-sighted because they put like lawyers at other firms on that list. And I think that's a mistake, because those people could, be referral sources, talk about you, have conversations about you that you don't even know, and then also be conflicted out of a matter, like I said. So alumni can be your strongest advocates that will benefit your business or not. That's up to you. And like I said, you can repair things through alumni relations, because, people can go on Google, Glassdoor, Vault. Vault and a Chambers associate, we know, is skewed towards the firms because the firms get the opportunity to review that information and edit it. But this really helps. Word of mouth is more powerful than you think. People ask me all the time. They see that I worked at Paul Weiss and Sullivan and Cromwell, and they call me and ask me, what was it like to really work there? And I tell them. So know these conversations are going on behind the scenes, and you can have your alumni, even if they left because you asked them to, you can really have them become advocates, okay? So revenue. Oh my goodness, revenue is so helpful. Again, being an inclusive program builds community and loyalty. So don't leave out these people. I can't stress that enough. If you don't take anything away from this, take that away from it. And then expanding your alumni program to non-lawyers. I said this when we started. Why aren't all firms doing this? How many of you are doing this? Chris, have you worked with any firms that have asked you to find former summer associates? Or also, if you've worked with people who are trying to find staff in there as well for alumni? Oh, Chris, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Have you worked with firms that have asked you to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're constantly working with firms trying to figure out, information for alumni, how best to connect with them, and giving them advice on that as well.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and then recruitment, obviously, I mentioned that. Responsibility we talked about already. Your alumni care how your firm acts as a good corporate citizen. So thinking about that. So post those things on your law firm social media accounts about the good things your firm is doing, but also offer that to your alums, okay? And then just
Stephanie, I think that sort of goes to another thing that you and I both talk about a lot, which is you create one piece of content, and how many different places can you repurpose the content?
Oh, the circle
the
of
circle of law. Yeah. So, put some of that stuff in the alumni newsletter or on the alumni site, or, in the LinkedIn group.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. We will give you guys some of these slides. So for example, you don't have to take a ton of notes, but I think this is one that has a lot of meat on it. I mentioned all of these things, this, but this is how alumni relations can help your firm. And one of the critical aspects is making sure that your alumni contact info is correct, because then you won't be able to keep in touch. And then incorrect data, Chris, is a loss of time and money. So I'm curious also how many of you have a dedicated alumni relations person, or where alumni relations falls in your firm. We'd love to know. So put that in the chat as well. So Chris, I'm going to ask you to talk about the next few slides, all about, staying in touch with alumni and the importance of it and how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So years ago, I had a very smart managing partner I was talking with about, if you do an event and you don't reach the right people, we had a firm we worked with, and they did this big event, and they expected 200 people and 20 showed up because they didn't have a good list. And, it was an embarrassment. They had more lawyers than clients in the room. And he said, well, that's true, but think about all the time we spend creating content. And if that doesn't get to the right people, how much billable time is wasted? It's the same thing with your alumni. If you don't know where they are, if you don't have good information for them, you can't connect with them, you can't share information, and you can't get the value out of your alumni program.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. So find their data, update their records, and outsource it. That's the other theme. So Chris.
Yeah, and data is really, for years, they were saying 30% of your data degrades every year. Well, and then COVID, right? So everybody's working from home. They've changed jobs 3 times. It's probably now half of your data is going bad.
Wow.
Yep.
So, I would tell you, if you have a debt. So, all right, Chris, this is a pop question for you. If I have, let's say, 10,000 contacts, I've got, let's say, I don't know, let me make this up, 1,000 alumni, 10,000 contacts. I don't have that much time to clean up everybody. Would you tell me, if someone was saying, I've got a DQ, a data quality problem, would you tell them to focus on alumni first? Would you tell them that should be in a subgroup, with certain clients? How would you even go about starting a project like that?
Yeah, well, so it depends is the answer. We start with a strategy. And so the first part of what we typically do involves some consulting to really figure out where's the low-hanging fruit? Where are you going to get the most bang for your data quality buck, so to speak? And part of that we usually focus on key mailing lists and top clients, and alumni could easily be in both groups. And so you would cover some of them there. And then it just depends on the firm's priority, whether alumni is top of mind at that time.
Okay, got
Go to
it.
the next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, people, if you think about it, people are not just changing jobs, and changing locations like they have been. There are people, they get hired and fired and promoted, and, companies open and close and get acquired and move. And it's hard to keep up with all this data. And, now it's big data. The more data we have, the harder it is. And if you don't have that, the data for your alumni, you are unable to target. If you don't have that data, it also hinders adoption of your CRM and your other technology, and it leads to a lot of wasted time and effort. And as Stefanie focused on earlier, it really hinders business development, and really we're all focused on that. So we probably worked with close to 200 firms. And how are you managing data? We talked to them about, how we're managing data. For a long time, people kept contacts in Outlook. What we found in the last 5 years, not so true anymore. They still use Outlook for calendar and for email, but not as much for the address book. And even if you have some attorneys that do put information in the address book, they don't update it. They don't necessarily know when somebody changes roles or when they retire or die. And they know the same people. So there's duplicative data in Outlook. So it's why CRM systems have really changed the sort of methodology for capturing contacts, because a lot of that data is, there is some good data in there, but it's really, you have to sift it to get the nuggets. Lots and lots of documents, but the biggest thing I think we see, the winner is spreadsheets. Everybody just loves those spreadsheets, right? Put in the chat if you're having, how many different types of marketing and BD spreadsheets do you have at your firm? What kinds of things are you keeping there?
The joy of spreadsheets should be another program we do, Chris.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
I think we need to, definitely need to. And now we've got experience databases. We've got all these
Chris, they're saying so many spreadsheets, very fragmented,
Yeah.
So many, too many, and most are hard to find. Oh, hey, Walter.
We worked with a firm that we did a CRM success assessment for, because they were going to change systems. And, we're talking to them and they're like, well, nobody's using the CRM. And, come to find out, everybody was using the CRM. But even though they still had no fewer than 25 separate, like really important spreadsheets. And I'm like, where are you keeping them? And two of the most important BD managers were keeping the spreadsheets like on their personal computers and their hard drives. So God forbid that, they leave the firm or something happens, and nobody's going to know to go find that spreadsheet. They're just not.
Yeah. And, another thing I've seen, Chris, is that, like, let's say you do have your alumni data in a folder in Interaction or whatever CRM program you're using. Not every firm uses the same email marketing software, or it's not connected necessarily all the time to your CRM. So there's a lot of like people keeping alumni lists like in email marketing and then using the old list, or not, not necessarily uploading each time, or not having a resource at the firm who's maintaining the alumni data. So you're using the dirty data over and over again. You're just using that list that's in, I don't know, whatever you have. Let's say, I know some firms are using Constant Contact for email mailings for alumni. Not everything is always integrated. So that scares me.
Well, yeah. And, for years, some of the biggest firms subscribed to this software that was just for managing alumni, and it got acquired, I think, and they just shut it down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get it. I'm the CRM consultant, but I kind of lean toward, if you can manage all the data in one place or in fewer systems, why not try to manage that data in the CRM? And if you don't have that e-marketing integration, you absolutely should, because it makes life so much easier.
So much easier.
Yeah,
we would love to know. Oh, sorry. I was going to ask, in the chat, can you tell us, are you managing your alumni like mailings separately from what you're doing with firm stuff. So sorry, Chris. I love audience participation.
All right, let's go to that next slide.
All right.
So the one thing that I have learned about this is there is no silver bullet. It takes time and resources, human resources, automated resources. The first thing you want to do, and I had a firm that learned this lesson the hard way, when COVID hit, they had a list, they hadn't used it in 5 years, but they felt like they really needed to tell clients what was going on. And so they sent a blast out through Constant Contact for the first time in 5 years. Over 50% of those emails bounced and they got shut down. Constant Contact turned their account off. Now they'll turn it back on, but it's a big pain to get it done. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to assess the mess. And so when we work with clients, we have a thing called True DQ. And it starts with an assessment. We have an automated and a manual process. So if the firm just wants to find out how much of your data is bad, we can, boom, click a button in a very short period of time, very inexpensively tell you how many bad emails you have. And then we can come back and fix a lot of them automated. And that may be enough for most firms. But before if you're going to start an alumni program and you've got a list and you haven't used it in a while, that's the first thing you want to do is just run it through that automated system. So, we can find out which ones are going to bounce. And then you either take them off the list, which is, sort of the baseline practice. But these are, people that you care about potentially. So the better practice, if you have the time and the resources, is to actually go figure out why they bounced. Where did these people go? Assuming that they are a valuable resource for the firm, you want to actually update those. And again, that can be done both automated and manual as well.
And also, Chris, it's holiday card season. So don't use that list from 5 years ago. I'm having firms say to me, oh, we're just use what we used last year. No, you need to do the DQ on that. And also, guys, make sure your alumni are on your holiday card list. It's a basic one, but sometimes you may want to do a special card just to your alums that's more personal, but make sure they're on that list. But 'tis the season, Chris, for holiday cards.
Indeed, it is. Working on a lot of those projects right now. One of the points here is, review and correct bounces after campaigns, but I've now become a big fan of remove bounces before the campaign. And, again, if anybody ever needs help, we're happy to give you information, ideas, and best practices, or actually, help you with those projects too. We're at your service for that. That's what we do. Next slide. So the big thing I can tell you, as it relates to alumni, if you're starting a new program, as it relates to any kind of data project, you need to start now. I'm working with a client right now that it's not a very big organization, but they were using 20 different pieces, and it's not a law firm. They were using 20 different pieces of software, and they're going from one CRM to a new one, and they're very focused on their alumni. So it's a big set of their data. And, think about, they ended up having close to 90,000 records between the systems, and over half of them are duplicates. I had another firm here in town, and they had kept all their data. They don't have a CRM anymore, but they put all their data in Constant Contact, and they wanted us to help clean it up. And they exported it all out. They'd been using it sort of like a CRM. They had close to 100,000 records in there. Imagine the amount of time and effort and money it will take. And so we try to work with firms strategically to say, okay, let's not clean all that data. Let's put a strategy in place. Got to start with a strategy. Top clients, mailing lists, but not all the lists, lists that you have used, in the last 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it might be, top clients. And let's focus on that data first. Because if the goal is, hey, we've got to have, 100% clean data, we're never going to get to that goal. And it's a very expensive proposition as well.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I've been at 5 conferences in the last 4 weeks, and I think I caught a cold.
Yeah, I can hear it. And you still got Toronto next week, so that's okay. Should I next one, Chris? Or
yeah, I'm all good. I think that's the last of my stuff, and I'm going to take a turn on mute and stop coughing.
Okay, so oh, actually, no, it's not. So sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
So you want to also make sure that you have all the right data points for your alumni. You want their new title and company and address and contact info, but you also might want to keep up with data points from the firm. What office were they in? What practice? The relationships that they had, dates of hire and departure, and what list are they on? Sorry.
Okay. I'm so,
And
I
that
feel so
is my
bad.
last slide for now.
Bless you. Okay. So you guys, another thing I would say with this also is that, have you had the issue with alumni only want you to contact them at their personal email? Or when they left the firm, they gave you their personal information as their forwarding info, but then they're also a duplicate record because they have their work info, like a lawyer at the firm has, like, let's say they work at Clorox, right? So you've got so-and-so lives in an apartment in Boston and you've got their Gmail, and then you've got the same name and they work at Clorox, but the two aren't connected. So I think that's also something to think about and make sure you're reconciling those things. One of the important things I would add in with key data points is the years they were at the firm. So class year, I think, is important, because I have wanted to have alumni events that were just for like young alumni or alumni who graduated between like 1990 and 2000. Practice group and more segmented alumni events can be really good. If you can also track gender, that would be great, because if you want to have an alumni women's program, or just have a women's initiative or invite your female alumni to your women's programs, you're going to need that information. Same thing with LGBTQ events. If you can tag some of these things, which I know can be hard, especially if the data isn't necessarily flowing from HR into your systems, but these are just some things that I've done. One of my most successful alumni events was an alumni event we have for like the litigation department of a firm. And I think it can be really great to segment your alumni in that way. And also remember, like, let's say you're a Chicago-based firm or a New York-based firm, with many offices, you have alumni all over the world. One of the things that we weren't doing before COVID was we would have an alumni event maybe in the major cities or the big one in New York and invite everybody. Well, now we can do virtual things. So we should. So don't lose sight of the webinars and the virtual things. There's really cool programs that make it like you're actually attending an event. So I would just tell you to like still reach out to those alumni who are in Hong Kong. If you're a New York-based firm, engage with them, and it may be to your benefit to do a dinner, like an alumni dinner, invite a guest speaker. One of the things we did at Proskauer was to have an alumni board of directors, and these were 6 alums who were strategically picked by the executive committee. Some were in-house counsel, some were in government, some were in other positions, but they were ambassadors for the firm. And we met with them 3 times a year in person. We held a really nice dinner. We gave them an update about the firm, but we also asked them what they wanted us to do for the alumni program. And they were very well connected to their community at large. And they helped us shape the program and they helped us promote the program. In the same way, I'll tell you that you need your people to promote social media posts. You need your alumni to promote the things you're doing as well, especially when you're having events. So get your alumni on board, make them be your cheerleaders, and empower them by giving them positions of power within the alumni community by this alumni board of directors. Okay, so delivering alumni value is a lot of different things. I talked about them at large. Continue learning. There are some alumni who don't need CLEs, but I would still invite them to programs. I would do programs specifically for alumni to shine, and specifically for alumni. Like, it shouldn't be a sales pitch to the alums. It should be educational series. Like, we did a general counsel series at Proskauer for alumni. And we did, the labor and employment group is very big at Proskauer. So we did a labor and employment focused series of webinars, and we invited, it was for clients, but we invited our alumni who were also in the labor and employment group to be speakers. So there's lots of different reciprocal kinds of things you can do in that respect. But they really do care about education, knowledge they may have it at their new firm, but I would tell you that networking is also incredibly important to alums. And here are things you can do. A lot of them were covered, but supporting professional development, creating opportunities to reconnect with each other, doing in-person and virtual events, creating that class notes section of an e-newsletter. I would tell you, you only need a newsletter like 2-3 times a year, maybe once a quarter. It depends how many alumni you have. I would also say that this content should be posted into that LinkedIn alumni group. And for those of you who don't have a LinkedIn alumni group, I would create that. And what I would do, somebody asked a question about what you should post in that group versus what the firm is posting. It needs to be, it could be similar content, but it needs to be about why the alumni should care about it, right? So if there's news about, news about a lawyer who's worked on a matter, who's still at the firm, an alum would care about that. But also, you should be setting up Google alerts for some of your top alumni so that you can track what they're doing and that you can promote that so-and-so was just promoted to blah, 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 even if they don't tell you, and some of the things they're working on with some of the major corporations. So there's a lot of data that you can use, not just Google alerts, but other software I'm sure that you all have that will help you be in the know when it comes to these VIP alums. And your lawyer should be doing that for top clients and prospects as well. I think, offering alumni opportunities for PR. So that's something I did at MoFo, where we would get a press opportunity and it wouldn't necessarily always be right for us, or maybe it was something we didn't want to talk about, but we would reach out to certain alums who were on our also VIP list and say, this is something you may want to do. We would regularly do not just panels internally, but externally, invite alums to be on those panels and write articles with alumni. So all of these things are ways you can engage with your alumni and do all of these things in a more effective way that is reciprocal for them and you. And I mentioned community and volunteering opportunities, so I'll just say that again. And another thing, I talked a little bit about alumni newsletters. It's not just alumni newsletters, it's inviting them to also follow the firm, be part of that alumni LinkedIn group, sending out emails. If you're doing, let's say, like a Veterans Day event or a Women's History event, invite your alums. By the way, like all the affinity groups should have an alumni initiative, like I said before about women's, but also so Paul Weiss has a diverse alumni group. That is so successful for them in terms of being a pipeline for recruiting and business development. And you also could extend the invitation. I do a lot of social media campaigns for firms where I'm talking about let's say Women's History Month or Black History Month or Native American Heritage Month. Feature alums in that group, not just your lawyers. And also don't just limit to lawyers, feature your staff as well. I hate the word staff, but non-lawyers, I don't know what's worse. Okay. So this is a way for you guys to get in touch with us. One of the things that is our QR code for LinkedIn. One of the things you can do is also ask your alums to upload their LinkedIn QR codes to your alumni database, your alumni directory, and you can publish those. So it'd be very easy for people to connect with each other. I think it's such a great idea to make facilitation of networking easier for alums. So that would be something else that I would advise you to do.
Yeah, Stephanie, you taught me about these QR codes, and I use them on all my sessions now, and tell everybody that's in marketing, tell your lawyers, they may not have heard of the QR codes, put them on their presentations, just a nice touch.
And I'm putting those, Chris, also on the backdrop of my phone. So when you're going to these networking events, many of you have heard me talk about this, but you can easily export this LinkedIn QR code and make it the home screen of your phone on an Android or an iPhone. So bonus tip for you. So we have a few questions that we should, look at, Chris. So, and if you have more questions, please put them in the chat. So one of the questions that we got was, we want to get alumni to join an alumni specific group where we share more alumni news and news about the firm involving alumni. What tools and tactics can we use to grow our following, especially because our firm has a general LinkedIn page that has more general content and a larger following? Okay, so I think the question is more about differentiation of that alumni group. So Didier, thank you for this question. So I think I covered this, but I will just, reiterate my thought on the fact that the news needs to be about the alumni. And this sort of gets into another question. Somebody asked, do we need a web portal for alumni? No, not necessarily. I think a LinkedIn group, guys, can work really well for content. an email newsletter can work really well. If you look at Strzok and Levon's website, they have an alumni section that's public, and it's alumni profiles and recaps of alumni events. Like, you don't have to put everything behind a paywall, or a password protected. The only thing is if you're trying to do the alumni directory, that's where it is tricky. And this is also going to lead me to the other question we got, which is, what tools are people using for alumni databases and directories that are separate from a general CRM? Chris,
I'm a big believer too, and whenever you send out your electronic newsletter, or if you're going to have a subscription form, allow them to click a link to manage their information. If something's not correct, it takes them to a page. They can update their title, their address, and their contact information, you hope. But give them the opportunity to share that information with you so you don't have to track it down.
What I know, somebody said they were using Foundation. Is anybody else, what are you using for alumni database directory? Years ago, I asked the artist formerly known as Hubbard One to create an alumni database for me, the alumni password protected website. And so I worked on a few of them. I'm sure a lot of your web providers can do this for you as well. And it's just a matter of putting that password protect on it. So I'm curious what some of you are doing here. But I would tell you the news needs to be about the alums. So don't just copy and paste what you have on your firm website or alumni, or the LinkedIn page. The news needs to pertain to alumni directly. And so, somebody asked a question of what's the utility of using Foundation for alumni versus interaction or in concert? I don't know the answer to that, Chris. I don't know if you do, but we can also research this and get back.
Honestly, it's the first time Foundation is a really flexible tool. It's really easy to integrate with other sources. So this is the first time when someone mentioned it in the chat that I'd heard it used for that specifically. Doesn't surprise me. But if that person who posted it wants to share some more information.
Yeah, we'd love to hear. Also, I can tell you that when that company went out of business, I think it was Higher Minds or Select Minds.
Yeah, Select Minds.
There is no alternative. I mean, I know some firms are looking at educational, what law firms use and what big universities use, but there's nothing great out there that really fits the needs of law firms or professional service firms. I know that some of the big, like BCG and Goldman, they use, some of those companies use the educational alumni databases and then have it massively customized because they have endless pockets. So this is a business idea for somebody out there who wants to create an alumni database. So what, Suzanne, I'm not sure. The question is, how can you be uploading LinkedIn QR codes into Interaction? I'm not an Interaction expert, so I don't know the answer to that. But
no, I don't think you could upload QR codes into Interaction. I mean,
but you can upload links to their LinkedIn profile.
You can add their LinkedIn links to.
Yeah, when I was talking about the QR codes, I was suggesting maybe an electronic directory or asking them to submit them through a LinkedIn group. So then people could easily just scan by the phone and connect with the people because, again, the alumni group will be people who are second and third degree connections, and you may want to connect with them. So it'd be really easy to do that through a LinkedIn QR code. I think your LinkedIn QR code should be on your business card and on every pitch book that you do as well. In addition to, like I said, the home screen of your phone when you are going to a conference or a networking event to facilitate networking.
Stephanie, I've got to show you this. This is my new piece of technology. And actually, Suzanne Donnells is on the call. And of course, she's always so tech forward. She taught me this. Suzanne, I got my card. I don't know if you can see it because of the camera. Well, how do we do this? There we go.
Yeah.
So it's a client's first business card. So now I only need one business card, and it does have a QR code, which is well and good. It also has an NFC chip. And so I literally, when we're at a conference, can tap somebody's phone and my contact record with my picture, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, everything appears on their phone, and they just have to save it. And everybody is just like, wow, that's really cool.
Okay, I didn't know that you could do that. So you're going to have to tell me more about that.
I will. There's a couple different, this one's called Mobilo. And thank you again, Suzanne, because I love this darn thing. But it also has a QR code. So if you have an older phone, like before a 10, you can have them scan the QR code.
I love that.
Have one business card. You don't have to put them everywhere and worry about not having them in or running out of them.
I love that. Okay. So just to wrap up, you guys, I think, yes, Chris is on the vanguard. Here are some conclusions for today. Focus on maintaining and then updating your alumni database. Without it, you don't have a program. If you can't do it yourself, you can outsource it. I've outsourced it for years. Alumni relations is a two-way street. Provide compelling reasons for your alumni to stay in touch and engage with your firm. By the way, like I said, you need an alumni program. Even if your firm is 5 years old, even if it's 150 years old, it's time. Mid-sized firms don't focus on this enough, and they should.
Yep. And it's a lot easier if you're only a 5-year-old firm or a smaller firm. So start now.
Yeah. Make your alumni look good. Create special initiatives for them to shine, like newsletters, alumni profiles, class notes, speaking engagements, offer perks like discounts, CLE credit, and provide value. All of those things, education, pro bono, networking. And it really can work to fix hard feelings about the way somebody left your firm.
Yeah.
So make the effort. So I think that's a good place to end it. And somebody asked a question about, is anyone using your alumni list to track the career trajectory about those you care about the most, meaning to find them new roles? Yes. I know a number of firms that are doing that. I actually know firms that are going the extra mile to, like I said, provide their in-house career coach or in-house career sales guy or whatever it is to help them with their new jobs and also find them jobs, but also keep in touch with them after the fact. So I think that can be a very useful tool for transitioning somebody. So I know that, they'll ask you to go talk to that career coach if you're thinking about, moving, but sometimes they'll suggest you go to talk to the career coach because you're not going to make partner. So you can absolutely use that to your advantage.
Yeah. And I mean, why wouldn't you place them somewhere that it's great for both of you?
Absolutely. So they're not going to stay with you and you don't want them to necessarily either. So thank you guys all for joining us. We'll give you back an extra 8 minutes of your day, and we will be doing a recap piece on this. And I want to thank everybody for joining us.
And we'll be reaching out and sharing the slides.
Yes. So thanks, guys.
Bye, y'all.